everyone. I am so excited because I had the opportunity to speak with author R.C. Goodwin about his newest book right here called Model Child. Now, he found me and he asked me to read this book, and I was like, okay. And then I read it, I'm like, oh my God. This is a good book. It is really good. So I am so happy that he found me. And everybody, here is RC.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author R.C. Goodwin, and we are talking about his newest book, and you're looking at the cover of it right now, and it's called Model Child. This book came out in March, and I am so happy that you found me because I loved reading your book so much.
Well, thank you. I am very glad, Michelle, that you like it.
Oh, I was telling you before, I actually, because, we tried to do this a little bit ago, and then I reread some of it today, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot this book is so amazing. And I think that I told you that like 100 times the last time. I will try not to say that 100 times today, but it really was that good. And I am so happy that you found me. But, like I said, everybody is looking at the title and the cover right now. Let's start with the title, because I love this title for the book, and I want to know, like, how you came up with this title.
Well, first of all, I like short titles. I've written
Me too.
a few short stories, and I wrote a collection of prison-centric short stories, and some of the titles run like Blank Slate or Hater, which is about a neo-Nazi, a skinhead, or Soulmate, which is about a stalker. So Model Child came about because arguably the main character in the book is a girl who is in some respects a model child. She can be personable when it suits her purposes. She behaves. She is not in trouble either with her parents or at school. She's not a runaway. She is in her early teens, does not do drugs, and is, in the narrow sense of the word, a model child. But there is a lot more to her than that and her story, and that unfolds in the course of the novel.
Yeah, a lot unfolds. And, the cover, I'm looking at it again because I remember when I first looked at it, I was like, what an amazing, I love how you don't see her eyes. You see half of her face, okay? And I don't know, it's like chilling. I feel like.
They did a wonderful job. It just so happens that the book was published by a small publishing house in Chicago, and one of the publisher's son is into computer-assisted design, and he came up with this, and I think it's perfect.
Oh my gosh, I think it's, I don't know, the muted colors, like I said, and just the shadow of her face, I absolutely love it. But, okay, so this first chapter is almost like one of my favorite first chapters ever. And, I'm going to read to everybody your first line in this book, because I love first lines, and, it's beautiful. Even when I went back and reread it, I was like, this is so beautiful. You say, James Shannon made the sign of the cross as he stood outside the bedroom of his daughter, Christina. Now, I remember when I first read that, I was like, is she sick? Like, why would you do that? Right? Like, I love that.
Out.
We do. We find out very quickly, too. And then the last line of the first chapter, which is another absolutely mind-blowing line. You say, I just killed my daughter, he reported, the last words he uttered for nearly 2 weeks. And you're like, what?
And then he becomes electively mute. He can speak, but he chooses not to. And as would most likely be the case with such a patient, he is remanded to a facility for mentally ill offenders or those who are in need of a psychiatric workup. And much of the plot subsequently concerns the slow and rather bumpy relationship between the psychiatrist who is assigned to him to evaluate him and Shannon.
Yeah, and I think that what I loved about this story so much is that relationship, and not just that you go into Shannon's story, but that we get to know so much about I always wonder if I'm saying this right, Gottlieb, right, the psychiatrist.
Yes.
Yes. And, you know, his story is just as fascinating.
I tried to make him as a kind of a counterpoint to James Shannon, although there are some similarities. I should say that I took Gottlieb, Dr. Gottlieb, from a previous novel that I wrote that wasn't published. So I already had someone to work with, a character that I rather liked, and in whom I saw a lot of possibilities.
Yeah,
so
well,
I may yet get that book, which would be a prequel, published. I hope so.
I really hope you do. Just, you know, if you need a little nudge, I'll be your little nudge that says do it, because he was just, you know, his story was just as rich, and what he had to go through just being the psychiatrist for James Shannon, but also his own personal life story is just so intriguing. And I read, we don't give any spoilers away, but I read the last chapter again, and I loved it just as much as the first time I read the last chapter. And you know, it was just such a beautiful ending. And, you know, it is a thriller. And that's what I, like, when I tell people about this book, I'm like, it's a thriller, but it's written so beautifully that when you get to the end, it isn't like, there's nothing like shocking. Like, it's like, it just, I don't know. I'm going to let you talk about it.
Well, I think that a book has to have its own kind of logic. And an artistic logic, like a psychiatric or psychological logic, is very different from the logic of, say, calculus. The good and great writers have a sense of that. I mean, the perfect example is Shakespeare. How, with his characters and with his plays, things just work out with a kind of a logic and a symmetry that is unimprovable, which is why he's Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, when I'm reading the story, I kept thinking, like, how did you come up with this story? You know, how did you, go ahead. I'm going to, you know, like, how did you figure out what you wanted to write about with James Shannon and his daughter? Like, did you hear something like that?
I would have to say that it's true. It's kind of a cliche, but it's true that characters in fiction do assume a life and a personality of their own, and they do things and they say things that you really don't expect them to do. But how the book came about, it deals, among other things, with evil, a subject that has always interested me, because I think it's a basic question that cuts through everything: religion, philosophy, psychiatry, history, fiction, poetry. And I was interested in this question, which I think has been bandied about and will be bandied about for a long time, namely, are there genuinely evil people in the world or merely sick ones?
Right. And, you know, that's why I don't want to give anything away, but that's, you know, the theme that comes out, and it's just, you did it so beautifully. Let's just put it that way. Because you know, when I first started, I was like, am I going to be able to finish this? You know, how is this going to be? Like, can I finish this book? And I just want to tell everybody out there, you can, okay? It's not what you think it is, but it is just as suspenseful and a thriller, and it really has you like thinking. After I was done reading it, I was like, huh. You know, like, it just made me think so much, and it was amazing. Like I said, I'm so happy I read it.
I consider that high praise because I have especially high regard for a book that stays with you after you read it and you think about it and you come back to it in your mind. I like that, and I hope that I've captured a little of that with Model Child.
Yeah, well, you absolutely did. I mean, and psychiatry is always very interesting, and the relationship between a psychiatrist and his patients and their patient is especially, especially a long-term relationship is, just intriguing. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with a lot of it in my family. My dad went to psychiatric help for a long time, and it always just intrigued me to the point that at one point I thought that's what I was going to do. I thought that's the road I was going to go down, but I didn't. So, but it's just that relationship is like sacred because the psychiatrist can only tell so much anyway because of that there's the client, not client, doctor patient things that they can't say everything, and so that's always intrigued me.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I had other flirtations in medical school. But one of the reasons, maybe the main reason why I chose psychiatry versus other things that intrigued me was that I knew instinctively that it would hold my interest over time as nothing else would, and that's been true.
Mm.
I mean, it can be aggravating, God knows, but and you don't have the quick, fabulous results that say a surgeon does, but the
Right.
gratification is there, and the fascination of people is endless.
Yes. Are you gonna your next book coming up? Like, are you gonna stick in the thriller suspense genre?
Yes, the next book is actually the one that I alluded to before. It's another Gottlieb book, and I have been rewriting and re-editing it. And yes, that is crime fiction with a medical psychiatric slant,
Well,
which is
you know
mainly
what?
what I write in fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I am so happy I found you or you found me actually, because I want to read that next one. And I really, I can't tell you enough how much I enjoyed your writing of this book. And, it kept me going the whole entire book, and every chapter kept me going to the next chapter. And I love that about it. And, so thank you
I'm,
so much.
I'm very grateful for your encouragement, and I'm very glad that I found you too. And yes, you'll definitely get a copy of the next one. If not
Awesome.
willing, there is a next one.
Well, I hope so. And I'm going to have all the links. I'm going to have the Amazon link listed underneath here. And I think that we're giving away a copy, right, on Instagram?
Yes,
I forgot.
yes,
I
we
forgot.
are.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we had talked about that. So I will be giving away a copy tonight on Instagram. And I just want to thank you so much. And yes, please find me. Okay.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
I'll be an early reader. I'll do whatever you want. I'll read it ahead of time, and and we'll talk again.
Okay, good enough.
Okay. Have a
Be
great
well.
night.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with RC. Wasn't he awesome? And I'm not even kidding. I had to like hold back from not telling him a million times how much I love the book because even I start to annoy myself when I do that. Okay. I'm like, don't say it 1,000 times. I'm telling you guys, you are going to love this book. Okay. So I'm giving away a free well, he's giving away a free copy on Instagram tonight. So all the links are listed below, along with the Amazon, right to his book. And I am so happy about that, guys. So, everybody, thank you. Thank you.